What is Falernum? Who invented it? Where does it come from? Is it a syrup or a liqueur? Is it spiced or mild? Does it put jam on its toast? Doesn't it put jam on its toast? If not, why not? Since when? If you've ever made a tiki drink, at some point you were new to tiki and you saw an ingredient called Falernum, and you didn't know what the heck that was, and you looked into it, and you bought yourself a bottle of John D. Taylor's Velvet Falernum, because that is Falernum. And you probably saw some blog posts and stuff about making your own Falernum or whatever, and maybe you tried it and it didn't come out very good, I don't know. But there weren't any other brands, and it was kind of curious too, because this is Velvet Falernum, but the recipe calls for Falernum. Is that what this calls for? I don't really know. This is pretty mild tasting. Is this supposed to do a lot in the drink? I don't really know, because you're just going from a book, right? So what is Falernum? A lot of other YouTubers and bloggers and whatever have covered this topic, the history of Falernum, pretty darn well. But just to rehash, Falernum, it turns out, is a sweetened rum liqueur that hails from Barbados that has been around since at least the early 1800s. I find newspaper articles from the mid to early 1800s. Others have found them even earlier than that. My archives and resources don't go there. I find recipes for Falernum printed in newspapers in the 1890s. And so not only do we know where it comes from, we know when it comes from, and we know how to make it in the 1890s style, which is really, really simple. It turns out that the 1890s style Falernum recipe just follows the recipe or the rhyme for Planter's Punch, which is 1 of sour, 2 of sweet, 3 of strong, 4 of weak. So limes, sugar, rum, water. No cloves, no allspice, no bittering agents. I do occasionally in some older recipes find mention of almonds, but that's about it. I know that it was advertised heavily in newspapers, like when it was coming to town, importers took out like huge ads in newspapers to be like, hey, I got a boatload of Falernum coming, come on down and buy it. Where does the name come from? If you know your classics and your classical histories of the Greeks and Romans, you might notice that Falernum sounds an awful lot like Falernian. Falernian wine was a vintage of wine that the ancient Romans raved about like madmen. Pliny the Elder wrote whole like treatises about how good it was, and other people wrote about it, and it's a term that got thrown around a lot. I think in Pliny's description, actually, he says that you could light it on fire, which, if true, is pretty crazy, because that means that there was actually commercially available brandy in ancient Rome way before that should exist. But Falernum and Falernian, those are not the same words. That's a different thing. It's got to be a coincidence that it's called Falernum. In fact, if you look around on the internet, you will find a story about a news reporter or somebody like that, or a visitor asking a Barbadian housewife, hey, what is this stuff? How do you make it? And she said, in her accent, which I will not reproduce for you because I would never do a accurate or good version of it, have to learn them, as in it's a secret. Have to learn them, Falernum, right? Which I love, by the way. So what I found was that when I look at the old newspapers looking for recipes and mentions of Falernum, my search engine got a little confused because it kept finding ancient Roman passages and quotations put into the newspaper about Falernum wine, not Falernian wine. And so I don't know when it happened, but at some point the literati, the translators, models of very modern major generals, which is, you know, you would quote the classics to show off your education, your breeding, your status. So Falernian wine would come up, except back then they called it Falernum wine. And so I think that the story about have to learn them is kind of apocryphal. I think it was just like, this stuff is delicious, let's call it Falernum. And at some point, the name of the wine, the translation of the wine that we use, shifted to Falernian, but the liqueur stayed as Falernum. I mean, they're like right next to each other. You'll look on, you know, page 27 is importing Falernum wine, and then 30 pages later, there's a history of something or other, or so-and-so talked about being at the party where they served something that was like out of ancient Greece, a Falernum of epic proportions, right? Now here's the thing about this Falernum that is so important to so many tiki drinks. If you've ever gotten curious and said, I wonder what it tastes like neat, like I'm about to do, and you took a little sip of it, you might say, it's very mild. How would I describe that? I think I'm picking up a little cinnamon, certainly some like lime, not juice, but essence. I am picking up some vanilla, cinnamon. It's very sweet, kind of a Christmassy flavor. No bitterness, not harsh at all. And you might think that in the presence of the other ingredients in those tiki drinks, that would get knocked around. It would get buried, disappeared, especially when you look at some of these drinks Like I love a jet pilot that call for a half an ounce of it in a very large drink. How much could that possibly do? And then you start to wonder, is that what Falernum is supposed to taste like? Maybe Falernum is supposed to taste way more intense. Enter modern style Falernums, like Avua is actually, if I'm not mistaken, this is based in cachaça. Yeah, it is. A combination of our still strength and amburana cachaças with a blend of nuts, citrus, spices, and sugar. And I've used this in a number of cocktails, by the way. Avua, way more intense, allspice, clove for sure, much less sweet, a lot of clove. And I find a lot of clove in the modern Falernums a lot. And I do say modern because now that we know the history of Falernum, I gotta tell you, my impression is this is much closer to what, old school Barbados Falernum is supposed to taste like than this. I think that there is this instinct that we have in cocktail land, that something that's like been around for forever hasn't been around forever. And it's only been around since like the bad times of cocktails must not be what that thing is meant to be. And so there was an instinct, I think, to look at John D. Taylor's Velvet Falernum, maybe, I don't know, this is the vibes I'm getting, and say, surely that's not what Falernum is supposed to taste like. That is such a mild, sweet little liqueur, and I feel like that's just wrong. Something about that doesn't ring true. And so you get these other kinds of Falernum kind of entering the market, and I think that the impression is that they are bringing back, recapturing some lost version of Falernum. Sort of like how in the early 2000s with the cocktail revival, or fresh juices started coming back into the scene, and all of a sudden people were making their grenadine with pomegranate juice, which I wonder if that's correct or not. I digress. People were making their own house ginger syrups and things like that. And you all of a sudden were awoken to this idea that like, oh, cocktails can be wonderful things. It's just that we were using the wrong ingredients. And you are struck with the idea, the instinct that you have learned from that experience that maybe Velvet Falernum is wrong. And so now we have these very spiced liqueurs, these very spiced syrups, all of these homemade Falernums. But I think when you look up the recipe of Falernum that was going around the 1890s, you can extrapolate that forward. And I am struck by the impression that John D. Taylor's is probably exactly right. I do have to presume that this is either the same thing or darn close to the Falernum that would have been used in the tiki bars of the mid-century. So all of that said, which Falernum should you use in a recipe that calls for Falernum? Well, I think if you want to use a Falernum that is as close to what would have been used in the 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, when that recipe was invented, then the answer is to probably go with John D. Taylor's or a homemade version of it, which I'm going to cut to next, that would be hewing pretty closely to that. But that said, I've come around to this idea that I don't really like the idea of dogmatic cocktail canon recipes. I think for me, if a liqueur, spirit, or syrup anymore self-identifies as Falernum, then it's appropriate to use in that drink. You will simply get a different version of a jet pilot. You will get a different version of other drinks that are not coming to mind that rapidly. The thing about cocktail recipes and really locking them in and adhering to them and having a right version and a wrong version and a right ingredient and a wrong ingredient that happens is that they become mechanistic and anybody can follow a recipe to the letter and generate the exact same drink, which is cool and wonderful. That's kind of what recipes are for in some way, but I think you also lose something. You lose the idea that Bob makes a terrible martini, and I hate going to his house when he serves us martinis. And Joan, she makes a heck of a good daiquiri. Her daiquiris are, I don't know what she's doing there, but those are great daiquiris. I think I like that world. I'm struck exactly by a scene in Auntie Mame where, there's much talk in that movie given to how to make a proper martini and who makes good martinis and who doesn't make good martinis and how to make a bad daiquiri with honey in it. And I like that. I like the idea of everybody having their own thing and that cocktails, instead of being one specific thing, one specific recipe, and that any deviation from it is another cocktail. I don't like that. I like the idea of these recipes being kind of amorphous little blobs that encompass bunches of little things, multitudes, if you will. So I think that there's a lot of ways to make old fashions and martinis and daiquiris and all that stuff. That's what I'm getting at. Anyway, so I think that you should use whatever Falernum you want. But if you want it to come out tasting the way that Don Beach or Trader Vic did, probably John D. Taylor is the way to go. That said, I want to make the two very popular de facto kings of homemade Falernums today. That would be Falernum number 9 and Tropical Standard Falernum. And then in this episode, I'm going to make 2 concentrated flavor essences, that one of which will create on the fly, whenever you need it, a liqueur or syrup instantaneously that adheres to like the modern style Falernum, which I believe is the Tropical Standard style Falernum. And I'm going to make an essence that also does the exact same thing, makes a liqueur or syrup anytime you want it, instantaneously, that adheres more to the classic 1890s, something in the vein of John D. Taylor Falernum. And we'll see if they're any good. I haven't tried them yet. I got some notes that I wrote down on this. And if they're good, then that's how I'm gonna make my Falernum from now on. I'm just gonna have a Falernum essence that I dose into a liqueur base or syrup base, and ta-da, Falernum. To do that, I gotta go to the lab. Hey guys, I'm gonna cut to my voiceover mic now for a second. Tropical Standard Falernum is 0.25 grams of Star Anise, 0.25 grams of Mace, 0.33 grams of grated nutmeg, 0.5 grams of cloves, 4.33 grams of lime peel, 9.33 grams of fresh ginger thinly sliced, 10 milliliters of Demerara 151, 42 milliliters of Wray and Nephew Overproof, 0.2 milliliters, that's 200 microliters of almond extract, 5 milliliters of lemon juice, 17 milliliters of lime juice, 88 milliliters of cane syrup, and 277 milliliters of simple syrup. Then you got to filter that with whatever you like to filter with, whether it's a coffee filter, a vacuum Buchner funnel, or a sock. For Falernum number 9, it calls for 4 grams of blanched slivered almonds. I didn't have my almonds slivered, so I crushed mine. You need 7 whole cloves, about 0.35 grams crushed. You're going to toast those together. Here in the lab, the easiest way for me to do that was with a beaker and a hot plate, but if you're a normal person, maybe a stove and a pan would be better. Then you're going to need 5 grams of lime zest and 6 grams of fresh ginger that you slice up. Put the almonds, cloves, lime zest, and ginger together with 60 milliliters of Wray and Nephew Overproof and let it sit overnight to infuse. Strain that or filter it however you can, and then combine that with 167 grams of 3:2 simple syrup, 15 milliliters of lime juice, and 0.6 milliliters of almond extract. Stir it up, and there it is, Falernum number 9. So here is Falernum number 9 in my left hand and Tropical Standard in my right, and you can check them out right here. They are different. They're different colors. They're different quantities too. I took their recipes and divided them by 3, and whatever it was fine. Hopefully they came out more or less as they're intended to. I think that they did. I haven't tried them yet. I'm very excited to try them. Before I do try them though, I just want to call attention to this amazing shirt that I'm wearing. This is the How to Drink Always Wrong shirt, as in the customer is always wrong. Popular thing we do on the show where we take receipts. You know, if you watch the show, you know about customer's always wrong. The skull, because why? Because the receipts come out of the skull of doom. And so this is the customer is always wrong shirt. I have not a lot of these left, and I'm very proud of these shirts. It took me forever to find a textile partner, a clothing partner that I was comfortable enough to work with on the show. These guys, they are dirt to shirt made in the Carolina. Grown, harvested, spun, carded, woven, cut, assembled, and garment dyed. Totally different than like, I don't know, digital transfer printing, which is boo-boo, and different than screen printing, which is like thick and heavy and sits on top and flakes off. This is garment dyed. And you can get this and a lot of other stuff like our new coasters at htdshop.com. And I gotta tell you about that because this show is expensive, guys, okay? Which is why I'm also going to tell you to check out my Patreon. We have an amazing Discord, the community. There's exclusive content over there. There's me tinkering. You could find out how I built this crazy ass thing out of spare parts. There's so much fun over there and more stuff coming, and you can join the Pin Club and you get access to the HTD app, which makes it so much easier to use the show as your own personal cocktail guide. There's something like over 1,400 cocktails in the history of how to drink. I found that out by baking the app. And I've got a bunch of new features coming to the app very soon. So if you love the show and you want to see it continue, check out the shirts. There's not a lot left. I think at the time of filming this, there's straight up 160 of these shirts left. So Move quick. If you're interested in a shirt, do please check out my Patreon. Maybe there's something over there that'll make it worth your while. And if there's not, that's no big deal. No hard feelings. And if there is, I will see you in the Discord. Thank you for making all of this possible. Thank you to everybody for watching. But now, let's get on to tasting these syrups that I have waited for so long to taste. We get to pick a how to drink coaster. We're going to use Macaca, the Malort aficionados celebrating aggressive cocktails across America. I want to make that like a real club. I've noticed that we have a pin for this, and I think I might do a challenge coin too soon. I think people have been buying, I know people have been buying them in like blocks, like 10 of them at a time. I think they're bartenders handing them out to regulars, and I hope that's true because that's awesome. Okay, here we go. This is Tropical Standard Falernum, and this is Falernum number 9. They've clearly got a different thing going on. One's dark, one's green. Well, let's try the Tropical Standard first. Here we go. Cheers. Wow, that's really intense. And by the way, both of these have not been aged, right? Like I made these yesterday, came back, here we go. But I understand that they will mellow out with time. That is really intense, and I love it. It's not as like clovey as the Avua. I think it's way better than the Avua, no offense. I have not had every Falernum on the market, but that is delicious. That is really fantastic. It has a clove and nutmeggy spice. The ginger is there. It could be a little bit stronger, but I don't mind that. Has lime. There are definitely notes of lime in there. It's very good. I totally can feel the connection between this and every other modern Falernum I've ever had. It doesn't feel a million miles away from like John D. Taylor or something, which is pretty cool because as I have, I think, kind of established for myself, John D. Taylor that's probably the guy. That's probably what Falernum is supposed to taste like if you're looking at recipes from like the 50s and up until very modern recipes. That's delicious. On to Falernum number 9. Now this one's very exciting to me because there's a lot more going on here in my opinion, but we'll see. I also like the color. Woo! Way more lime, way brighter. I honestly wonder if I did this wrong. Let me try it again. It's less sweet than Falernum, than the Tropical Standard for sure. This is closer, more so a liqueur in my opinion, than Tropical Standard, both of which have some alcohol in them, but the Tropical Standard is definitely a syrup. That has a tartness and a pungency. I'm getting the lemon juice. I think this is the one that had a little bit of lemon juice in it, going off of memory here. It is much more citrusy, much more bright. Here's my take on this. I suspect that the Falernum number 9 might be closer to a traditional Barbadian Falernum, but my mouth, just like my mouth who loves delicious spicy candies, really likes the Tropical Standard. That is delicious. I also happen to, it's weird, I'm gonna say that I don't love clove, but I love clove, I think. I think I actually like clove. I just find it overpowering easily, and it's not here. This has some real Caribbean style, like, I'm not gonna say like Angostura, but yeah, no, it's got some of those aromas, those flavors in there. That's really cool. I'm pumped about both of these, and I'm glad I made them, and they're gonna hang out right here. Okay, so now that I've done that, we've tried the commercial products, we have made the Tropical Standard and Falernum number 9. I want to try something, and I am emphasizing trying something. This is a bit of an experiment. I want to try something. I'm going to make 2 versions of a concentrate from which I could make lots and lots of Falernum syrup, but also on the fly. I could instantly, convert simple and water or simple and spirit into a Falernum at the drop of a hat. Never need to buy it, never need to run out. Bada boom, bada bing. Experimental recipes. I have worked out some notes. We're going to try this. If they're no good, but there's promise, I'll probably work on them later. If somehow we knock it out of the gate, great. If they're garbage and it's a dead end, stick with the Tropical Standard, Falernum number 9, or honestly, John D. Taylor's and other commercial products. But here we go. The first one I want to make is a modern style Tiki, something more like Tropical Standard or Avua with a little bit more spice component to it. I'm going to make 120 milliliters of Essence that will produce, it's pretty concentrated stuff. 15 milliliters of this will go to a liter of syrup, which is good because you can do the math so it's as concentrated as you want, but that's not so little that I couldn't dial it up or down depending on the strength. But I'm aiming for something that at 15 mils or 10 mils per liter is what I was aiming for, in fact. To do this, we need 1600 lime essential oil. I am gonna put on some gloves because these essential oils and flavor isolates are potent and I don't want to have to deal with washing them off my hands later. I always feel like Agent Scully putting on the gloves. Time to do another autopsy. That woman did more than one autopsy per episode for at least the first 3, 4, 5 years of X-Files, right up until they moved it to LA, and then the show shit the bed. X-Files was so good when they made it in Canada, and then when it went to LA, no good. Just changed the whole vibe. All right, lime, 1,600. That's a lot, I know, but it really is the primary thing here. Sometimes people are gonna say, essential oils, isn't that for like multi-level marketing stuff and cults? Yes, but not these. These are 100% pure. You can get them from New Directions Aromatics. Generally speaking, if this is a route you want to go, look for stuff that has a safety data sheet, a gas chromatography, a CAS number is a registration number, that kind of stuff, and look for an actual documented proof that it is what it is in there, and then you'll know that that's what you have. This 100% lime essential oil. There's nothing else in there. Therefore, it's just stuff that comes out of the peels of limes, right? Okay, where's my benzaldehyde? This is benzaldehyde. It is 50% diluted. Benzaldehyde, marzipan. It's gonna smell like marzipan. It is almond. And I want 600 microliters. Oh, you know what? I just realized I didn't do all the lime. I made a mistake. I need to do another milliliter of lime juice here. That was a good catch. Lime juice. A milliliter of lime juice, not juice. Essential oil. Sometimes when I do stuff like this, people are like, oh, but how long does it last? It's shelf stable. It'll last forever. It'll probably only get better with age as things meld and go through some chemical processes that I don't really know much about. Over my head, I just know that that's what the word is. They get better with age. 600 microliters, 0.6 milliliters, of benzaldehyde, 50%. And as I said, this is basically, it's one of the main isolates that makes almond taste like almond. Powerful aroma. I need 60 microliters of clove leaf oil. Another really powerful aroma, just like, whew, pounds you in the face. I have 2 ginger oils that are gonna go in here. We're gonna start with this fresh ginger oil, 150 microliters. So the chemistry of ginger changes when it dries. It actually gets hotter and more pungent and spicier. So the oil and extract pulled out of fresh ginger is gonna be quite different than the one that you get from dried ginger. And this is dry. 80 microliters. Coriander essential oil, 40 microliters. Do you guys care if the crazy camera's in here? I don't think so. Built this rig. It's pretty weird. I will continue to build it. There is content about it on my Patreon. I need nutmeg, 15 microliters, which technically is below by 1 click the minimum I can measure on here, or by 5 clicks, but it does go there, so I think it's okay. Well, I need some ethyl vanillin because I'm lazy, and what I have lying around is a 1% solution. I'm gonna use 250 microliters of this. Should have used like a 10% solution, but this is what I found. I need a better organizational system. It's a mess over here. I'm actually working on like a lab assistant app. Not that that'll help with like putting things in the right place. Rum ether. That is our final guy. It smells like rum. It smells like rum raisin ice cream. 120 microliters of rum ether. And now I need 120 milliliters of ethanol. Okay, I'm gonna do this in 2 pours because I have to. I'm gonna do 100 first, over by 4, I'll live with it. And now 20. 4 less than 20, because that's what I went over by as far as I could tell. No, that is not the most perfectly accurate way to do this, but it'll be okay. This was critical stuff, really critical stuff. I would dial that in much more carefully. Now we're just gonna set this guy to stir, give it a few minutes, let everything really incorporate. Okay, this is good and mixed, and I'm just gonna bottle it really quickly into this guy. If you get one of these, I am a fan of this. This is a retriever, it's good to have. So remember, that's for modern Tiki style. Falernum, I need a lid for this, and yes, Tiki style. There's your Tiki style Falernum Essence. Now think about it. I said 10 mils of this to a liter. That's 120 milliliters. That's 12 liters. Pretty good. And you could make more, and you can make it stronger. Okay, this one is going to be an attempt at making an essence that would be more of that traditional style, Barbadian, early Falernum. Something closer to basically that Planter's Punch style. Not exactly all the way there, maybe more Velvet Falernum. All right, here we go. It starts again with 2.2 mils of lime oil. So 1 mil, 2, and now I need 200. 200 microliters to finish. And there you have 2.2 milliliters of lime essential oil. I personally always thought lime or lime zest had a lot of the flavor of Fruit Loops in it, and I saw just the other day that Darcy O'Neill just did a video about the flavor of Fruit Loops. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, Darcy, but you should. I really like his channel, and none of this would be possible without Art of Drink. Thank you, Art of Drink. I really appreciate it for the ideas and the education. So if you really want to go down the flavor essences, the dip your toes into the world of this kind of stuff, you should check his channel out and get some kind of an education too. I'm just a friendly internet drinks clown. I'm an idiot. 900 microliters of benzaldehyde. It's Ben's aldehyde, you know, there's Tony's aldehyde, Larry's aldehyde, Susan's got an aldehyde, this is Ben's. And if I say milliliters, I do mean microliters. I don't know if that's what came out of my mouth there. 900 microliters of benzaldehyde, 50% benzaldehyde. 300 of the rum ether, 150 microliters of Valencine. And by the way, I should say, I'm doing a dumb thing here. I'm making a full batch of this stuff, or, you know, quite a bit, enough to make 10 liters. In theory. Should I be doing a really small test batch for my first go? Yes. And coriander, I need 25 micros. Sometimes if I don't get a good seal here, they won't pick up very well. Once again, 120 milliliters of ethanol, otherwise known as full strength Everclear. I buy a lot of this at the liquor store. I wonder if they're looking at me funny. Don't pour from the bottom like that. 100 and another 20. Occasionally I get a comment that's like, Greg, why don't you just use the lines on that thing? Those aren't real. Those are suggestions. That says it is, and this one is making broader claims than other. It's saying it's 300 milliliters plus or minus 5%. And so that means it's less accurate the more it goes, first off. Most of these just say approximate or suggested. This is a little bit more accurate. This is accurate to 1 milliliter. You can get these accurate to a half a milliliter. I think I have one of those around here somewhere. Usually the smaller ones, smaller volume is more accurate. More accurate yet would be to use a good scale or balance and go by weight if you know the exact density of the thing you're measuring. But for volumetric, the most accurate would be something called a volumetric flask, as far as I know, by the way. There might be more exotic measuring. Anyway, the point is, you can spend more and more and more money and measure this stuff more and more carefully. Would pouring it to some random line on here been fine? Probably, but it's not what I choose to do. All right, give this a couple minutes. Okay, that's been stirring for quite a while. Let's bottle it. I should have a smaller bottle, but I don't. I will absolutely label this later. Just need a cap for it. For now, that's okay. I know which is which. Big bottle, velvet style. Little bottle, not velvet style. I want to make 2 liqueur bases because I want to go that way. I want to do this with liqueurs. Also because I don't feel like making it more simple and I only have so much. I know, I'm lazy. But liqueur is a valid way to do this, I think. It's a good way to do this. Okay, I'm aiming for a 15% alcohol by volume, which is a bit more than Velvet Falernum. How much is a Vua? A little less than a Vua, right? Kind of splitting the difference, because Velvet Falernum's 11, whatever. And I'm going to use this Dorley's Barbados rum because 1, Falernum comes from Barbados, and 2, I've read recipes from ye old 1800s that say to use the very finest Barbados rum that you can get your hands on. 175 mils of rum for each of these guys. Just landing this plane with the fumes in the gas tank. Now I need 175 grams of this 3-2 simple syrup. It's about 60 bricks, I just measured it. So in truth, it is 60 bricks. If you ever, for some reason, don't know how sweet something is, get yourself one of these refractometers. You can put a drop in there, look at the sun or any bright light source. You'll see a little line in there. It'll tell you how sweet it is. This is 60%. Because it was about 66%, but I had some 1-1 simple that I threw in there mistakenly, just trying to collect all the simple I had. And a kitchen scale. I don't need a fancy scale, just a kitchen scale for this. Number 1. There we go. A little over 175. And I'm aiming for about the sweetness of Velvet Falernum, which is about 200 grams per liter. Now we'll do the other guy. Again, 175 grams. Ooh. That's our sugar. Now we need 145-ish milliliters of water. We'll just start with the one that's in front of me. Here it is, just some plain old filtered water right out of my fridge. Yeah, 146. Okay, 146 again. And those are now darn close to half a liter each, which means, since I was targeting 10 mils per liter, I can dose each one with 5 mils, and we'll try these. Modern Tiki, classic Barbados. We'll switch them. I like the dark bottom for modern Tiki and the light bottom for classic Barbados. Each of these guys is going to get 5 mils. Probably, yes, I could do this a different way, but the other kind of pipette, I can barely read these things. I hate them. I use them when I'm kind of weighing ingredients. 1, see if it lotions. Yep. 2, 3, 4, 5. Same deal, 5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Barbados is turquoise. Modern Tiki is this. Shake them all up. And there we have it. 2 roughly the same sweetness and alcohol contact as Velvet Falernum. Let's see if they're good. Let's see if these Falernums are any good. I'm excited. All right, I keep saying out loud which is which because I keep trying to forget. Get, of course, a couple of how to drink coasters here. Oh yes, you must have how to drink coasters. All right, and this is, oh wow, it smells really good. Barbados, and this is Modern Tiki. I might have gone a little heavy on the vanilla. All right, I want to start with Barbados style. Oh, benzaldehyde is powerful. Oh, I like that though. This is the classic Barbados. That is not far from Velvet Falernum. If I was making this again, I would probably dial down the almond, the benzaldehyde a little bit. Honestly, maybe even quite a bit. I might cut it in half. But on the whole, I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm gonna just, for some reason, I'm gonna lengthen it out with seltzer because one thought I had was maybe just like dial down the whole thing. You know, you gotta see how it is tomorrow though, because things settle and flavors meld and shift. I really shouldn't be tasting these even right now, but that's okay. I like it. It definitely feels like it's in the same world as John D. Taylor. There is a long benzaldehyde aftertaste, which I don't hate. I'm curious about how it would mix in cocktails. I've been filming this for days, I'm tired. So don't expect it to happen right now. And I wonder how it settles, how the flavors meld in the fridge, and I'm gonna wait and find out. We'll check in on these later, probably on Patreon. Okay, let's try the other guy. Let's try the Modern Tiki. That one misses the mark. Way. Oh yeah, no, I'm not a fan of that. Again, it might be better tomorrow, but as far as, you know, if you were comparing it to the Tropical Standard, hell no. The Tropical Standard blows it away. But I think there's quite a bit of hope for the other guy, the John D. Taylor style. I don't know if the world wants such a thing, but I'm happy to have it. This has more clove, and I will say, one thought I had was that these should have some, especially this one maybe, should have some citric acid in it. Maybe a little bit of malic acid. That might really wake it up, actually. Just out of curiosity's sake, and because I won't ruin anything, I can make more of this instantly, pretty much. I'm going to put a half a gram of citric acid into each of these, just because I want to see what they're like a little brighter, because, you know, they should have had some lime juice in them if they were made with fresher ingredients. And could it be more? Maybe. Should it be more? I don't know. Should there be malic acid? A lot of people love the taste of malic acid. Maybe, but malic acid, I can throw this in there and shake it for a second and it'll dissolve. Malic acid is not that friendly. I don't really want to have to deal with stirring and heating and everything. We're just experimenting. I shouldn't even be doing this. I should be going to bed. My wife is mad at me. I'm tired. My back hurts. She wants me, she says, you're working too late, Greg. Knock it off. Okay, that guy, modern style. Shake that again in a second. Now this one. Woo, really close right there. Half a gram. Shake this up. And now I'm gonna shake them both up. That should do it. Just rinse these guys out. Classic Barbados, maybe, and Modern Tiki. Let's see how they are. Barbados. Interesting. The Modern Barbados with a little acid in it. I don't like it. I think it was better before. I think that that is bringing out some notes I don't love. It suddenly has like a bitter characteristic. And I don't mean tart, I mean bitter. Yeah. Classic Barbados. Did not like the lime juice, but maybe, or the acid, but maybe it's because I'm thinking of Velvet Falernum, which to my mouth has no acidity at all. The Modern Tiki is the one that I really thought might benefit from the acidity. Let's try it. It does. I think it still needs more work. I think it's missing depth. With another crack at this, I would probably increase the clove. I might add allspice and I might add cinnamon if you really wanted to go for that Modern Tiki vibe. And then, of course, you know, nothing's ever done. You can always be tweaking things and rebalancing them. You know, as I was talking before, I don't know that like recipes should be set in stone. I think every cocktail recipe is kind of like a space that a lot of different things fit into that are all Manhattans, that are all martinis, that are all jet pilots or Mai Tais, right? There are definitely bad versions and good versions, or ones at least that I don't like or do like. But the idea that there's only one way to do anything and that it's a settled thing. No, the recipes are always changing. So nothing is ever complete. You're always working on them. Eventually, I guess you have to abandon them. I'm slowly turning this back into tropical standard, right? Remember, tropical standard is much sweeter. So this is like a liqueur. Yeah, no, saying that out loud, I'm like, oh, right, that's like a liqueur. Duh. Yes, I like this a lot. I like this a lot too, but I liked it better without the acidity. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me on this episode of How to Drink. I will see you guys very soon in another episode. And to my patrons who make all of this possible, thank you so much. I will see you in the Discord. I love you. I think that's my sign off. I think I'm all done now. I've been filming a long time and I really messed up my back shoveling snow because apparently I got old. And I have to go lie down literally on an ice pack. I'm in agony. Bye.